Hello and welcome to another edition of Sports Extra on a Saturday night. I'm Tom Wiley. Thanks for joining us. Now, the offseason is over. Games have begun, and that means no more previews, no more predictions. From here on out, 4 quarters decide your winner. And in the 6-man ranks, the season opened with a showcase between the Treasure State and the Lone Star State. MTN's Alec Boffinger is in Billings for the first ever Montana versus Texas 6-man challenge.
Hey there folks, Alec Boffinger here at Herb Klint Field on the campus of Rocky Mountain College for an historic day in 6-man football. A pair of Texas teams making a 1,300 plus mile journey for a doubleheader here in Billings. Milford and Highwood kicked off the festivities at 11 this morning, and through the first half it looked like the Bulldogs and Mountaineers were in for a classic. Just moments before halftime, a pick 6 by Milford's Easton Evans gave the Bulldogs a 20-13 lead. That quickly ballooned in the second half as Milford, led by a bevy of ball carriers, scored the game's final 38 points en route to a 50-13 win over Highwood.
No, it's great. It's going to be definitely great. You know, we ain't drive down here for nothing. We already knew we had to come down here and handle business. And without my O-line, I wouldn't be able to do it.
It was more Texas dominance in the second game of the day. Custer Hysham Melstone scored a wild touchdown on the game's opening kickoff when Nolan Kammerman, the Rebels' kicker, scooped up a fumble and raced in for 6. But Strawn's Michael Barcenas gave the fans in Billings quite a show. After the Rebels' opening touchdown, Barcenas struck pay dirt on the first Greyhound play from scrimmage. Strawn then recovered an onside kick, and Barcenas scored again. The two teams combined for 61 first-quarter points. Strawn built a 40-21 lead in the opening 10 minutes. Barcenas wound up with a total of 7 touchdowns on the day as Strawn boat-raced Custer Hysham Melstone 71-21, though the Rebels lost quarterback Lane Duncan in the second quarter. A pair of wins for Texas as they'll head back south with memories from more than just the gridiron.
They got text, they got numbers, they got Snapchats, they're going to meet new people, and they've made new friends now through social media. You know, they've already told me, like, I've already added this guy, added that guy, so we're going to know what's going on in Montana now because of them. You know, they'll probably tell us next week, like, hey, Howard got the win, Howard did this, you know, so we're excited.
And then we went to Custer. They fed us. They were tremendous. I mean, hospitality. They did a great job. And then we went to the battlefield, so we had a really good time there. And you know, we've been all over pretty much.
Strawn also brought its volleyball team to play in Broadview on Thursday evening, and both the Greyhounds and Bulldogs brought their cheerleaders along. For those that did make the trip, it's been a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity.
95% of our kids have not been out of Texas, and not even probably out of the Palo Pinto County. Yeah, so I knew the time was coming. We're going to have fun all week, and then now it's over, and now we got to travel back tomorrow. So that's the thing that's worse because we want it to last. We want to enjoy it. And we have done it. It's been tremendous. So
as for the football, Lee is hoping Saturday's doubleheader wasn't just a one-off.
It could be a trend. I think some other schools might want to do it, especially 6-man, and they could come up and because the experience was great. The experience has just got to take a lot of planning, a lot of chaperone because kids are kids. Our kids were great. We didn't have any problems, knock on wood. But I think it could be a trend. I really do.
A truly unforgettable experience for all who were involved. In Billings, Alec Boffinger, MTN Sports.
Well, the first Friday night of the high school football season was one for the books with several matchups between championship contenders. MTN's Will Charlton recaps some of the top highlights.
Yesterday was the first Friday night of the high school football season. Here's your roundup, starting with a huge matchup in 6-man. This was a track meet from the very get-go, as on the first play from scrimmage, Centerville senior Luke Kelly ran it in for a score from midfield. The defending champs look ready to go. The Hawks would not fret, though, as after a lengthy drive, they would find themselves in the end zone thanks to a rush from senior Nate Nelson to tie things up at 6. Both of them traded touchdown after touchdown after touchdown, but ultimately a blocked PAT after Luke Kelly's 4th rushing score allowed CJI to get the win 65-63. 3-time reigning Class B champion Florence kicked off the season against Jefferson. First possession of the game, Jefferson quarterback Tyler Zodi throws deep to Luke Oxerart, who catches it off the deflection while falling to the ground. To cap the drive, Oxerart plows it in from 2 yards out. Jefferson would have a 7-0 lead at halftime. In the third, Florence answered. Quarterback Mason Arlington weaves through the defense for the 8-yard touchdown run. Then later in the game, Zodi would keep it himself for the game-winning score with just 9.9 seconds left. Jefferson wins it 21-14. In a big AA matchup between Billings West and Butte, a special team spark to kick things off, as Tosher Lee fields the ball, cuts it left, and knifes a path toward the end zone. Flash forward to the fourth quarter with the game tied at 21. Ludwig scampers into the end zone to take the lead. Butte then scores and goes for two, but the Bears bat it down and escape with a 28-27 victory. Staying in Double-A, it was a matchup between Capital and Gallatin. And in the third quarter, quarterback Grant Vegan found senior tight end Thomas Springman to tie the game. And then later, here's Vegan walking it in by himself to give the Raptors the lead. The Raptors would hang on to beat the Bruins 35-28. And now we'll look at some other Friday scores. For more, visit montanasports.com. With your Friday football roundup, I'm Will Charlton, MTN Sports.
Folks, our cameras will be on the sidelines all across Montana, and each Monday we'll count down the top 5 plays from across the state in our MTN Game Changers. But we can't be everywhere, so we need your help. If you see a play or a moment you think we should see, send an email to scores@montanasports.com and tell us how to find the video, or tag us on social media, and we'll consider including it in next week's edition of Game Changers. Still to come, the journey begins in the Frontier Conference, a roundup with the 3 Thursday night games featuring Montana teams. That's next.
Welcome back to MTN Sports Extra, powered by montanasports.com.
Well, the Frontier Conference season kicked off on Thursday with 3 Montana teams playing non-conference opponents. MTN's Luke Shelton is in Butte, where the Montana Tech Ore Diggers hosted a national semifinal team from a year ago.
Hey everyone, Luke Shelton out here at Bob Green Field in Butte. And while the Frontier Conference football season doesn't get going in full force until next weekend, a handful of teams kick things off on Thursday, including Montana Tech, which pulled out one of the most thrilling wins I have ever seen.
Well, I've got to do this game justice, and anyone who's ever seen a bug land on me knows I have a penchant for theatrics, so let's set the stage. It was a beautiful evening in Butte for the annual Copper game. Perfect weather, a great crowd, and the smell and sound of these sizzling burgers still lingers in my mind. And we had a top 25 football game on tap as number 3 Georgetown College made the odyssey from Kentucky to the mining city to clash with the number 21 Ore Diggers. And the Tigers pounced first on a 67-yard touchdown bomb from Garrick Slunaker to Dylan Warren. But then Tech settled in, and running back Lander Smith scored in the first and third quarters, and defensive back Jaden Downs notched a pick 6 in the second as Tech took a 21-14 lead late into the fourth quarter. But with less than 2 minutes remaining, and oh my goodness, a Tech fumble, a Georgetown scoop and score, and 2-point conversion pass to retake the lead 22-21. It was a blow to the Ore Diggers' upset bid, but hey, it set up a dramatic finish. Tech drove into field goal range on its last gasp drive. But rather than aim for the uprights, the Ore Diggers took a shot at the end zone. Quarterback Blake Thielen and wide receiver Wyatt Alexander connected just once during Thursday's game. But that game-sealing corner reception is one they won't soon forget, as Tech toppled the third-ranked Tigers 29-22 in an unforgettable victory.
Just ran the route, saw Blake looking my way, he threw it up, and my job as receiver is to go and get it. So that's what happened right there. I mean, I couldn't have a better quarterback throwing it to me. So see the ball, absolute perfect ball, go up, grab it, make sure it's tucked, and fall in the end zone.
And elsewhere around the league, other teams not as fortunate this week, with Dickinson State topping Rocky Mountain College and MSU Northern falling to Mayville State. Both the Blue Hawks and Comets are set to join the Frontier in 2025. And finally, here's a look at next weekend's slate of Frontier Conference games. In Butte, Luke Shelton, MTN Sports.
Cats and Grizz under the lights. Highlights from a pair of primetime Big Sky Conference matchups. That's next.
Welcome back to MTN Sports Extra, powered by montanasports.com.
The Big Sky Conference football season commenced with a bang last week when Montana State came from behind to knock off New Mexico. Well, the Bobcats are in action again tonight, as are the reigning Big Sky champion Montana Grizzlies. MTN's Scott Breen has your Saturday night highlights.
Well, thank you. Yes, both teams in action tonight, one at home, the other on the road. Let's get started with the late game. Montana State down at Utah Tech in St. George. Took the Bobcats a minute to get going tonight, get that motor running. Late first quarter, Taco Dowler on the punt return. MSU fans know how dangerous he is, runs it all the way back down to the 10-yard line. Moments later, that sets up Adam Jones from 1 yard out, and it's 7-0 Montana State. Early second quarter now. Tommy Malott at quarterback breaks loose. Gone. 47 yards for the touchdown, makes it 14-0 Bobcats. But Montana State really had a tough time tonight in field goal range. This one was blocked, and then it's a missed attempt. Cats up 14-0 into the second half. That game still in progress down in St. George, Utah. Grizz, meantime, in a street fight with Missouri State. No Junior Bergen out with an injury, so Drew Deck back returning punts. He muffs this one that likely would have been returned by Bergen, and that one's recovered by Missouri State. It leads to a touchdown drive. Jacardia Wright strikes first into the end zone. Next drive, Eli Gilman rushes in to counter for Montana, but the PAT was missed after a field goal from Missouri State. Keali Ayotte with a long rush here. It would eventually result in a Grizz field goal to draw them back to within one at 10-9. They try to get back into it here with an interception by Krishawn Gordon. Grizz would drive deep into Bears territory towards the end of the half with a nice pass and catch to Xavier Harris. That would lead to a Montana field goal, Grizz first lead of the game into halftime, and they hang on to win this one down the stretch.
Well, the Montana Grizzlies pull out a victory here in Game 1 of the 2024 season. A 5-point victory over Missouri State, but it was not easy and came right down to the final minute. Jay Cohn and Marty Morningweg. Marty, your thoughts on this game? Because a lot of fans maybe leaving the stadium shaking their heads, and I was like, whoa, that was a lot closer than we felt.
It was a heck of a game. Missouri State put up a big-time fight. However, the Grizzlies' offense, defense, and special teams executed when the chips were down. There was a few blunders throughout the game on all three of those. Bobby Hauck will probably pick out 2 or 3 things on offense, defense, and special teams to get better at, because the championships teams get better and better and better.
Well, it's Game 1. Lots of room to work on, you know. There's still lots of time of the season. Let's look at some of these highlights. Logan Fife came in the second half, really sparked the Grizzly comeback.
He gave the Grizz a little juice. It was a little bit different offensively as far as scheme. Some quick play action, driving it down the field, and what a redemption story by Deck and by Fonts. I mean, they had some blunders early, and they came back with some game-winning type of play for the Grizz.
Missouri State's quarterback Jacob Clark came in. He had a whale of a game, throwing for 250 yards, 6'5". He got banged up at the end, but he put in a whale of a performance for the Bears.
Yeah, he sure did. Big guy, big arm. The offensive line was down 2 or really even 3 starters, and so he was scrambling there at the end for his life against the pressure from the Grizzly defense.
The Grizzly defense came up with 3 sacks in the final minute of the game to salt this one away. So Logan Fife comes in the second half, but Keali Ayotte did himself fine in the first half. They both threw for 90 yards and a couple of touchdowns for Logan Fife.
Well, both quarterbacks for the Grizz are highly talented young men. They both have instincts. I suspect in the non-conference games that one will have a good game and then the other will have a good game the next game. It may end up being like that.
They're going to share the football. Well, the Grizzlies win it. They win by 5, and next week it's on to North Dakota, a road game. We'll see how things go then. For Marty Morningweg, Jay Cohn signing off here from Washington Grizzly Stadium for Scripps Sports.
Still to come, we take you away from the gridiron for a look at some Montanans making an impact on a worldwide stage. Stay.
Welcome back to MTN Sports Extra, powered by MontanaSports.com.
Well, the world watched as Simone Biles and Team USA dominated the gymnastics competition at the Paris Olympics. But when the games come to Los Angeles in 2028, there's a very real chance you might see a Montana native on the podium. MTN's Kyle Hansen introduces us to the next great American gymnast.
The Olympics recently wrapped up this summer, a memorable run that brought the world's top athletes to Paris to compete. For one Montanan, that stage in 2028 is firmly in her sights.
My biggest goal is to make the Olympics, hopefully in 2028. That's my goal. But We'll see.
Meet Reese Esponda, a Helena native who has been swiftly climbing the ranks in the gymnastics world, a sport from a young age she knew she wanted to pursue.
I was watching Gabby Douglas in the 2012 Olympics, and I was doing like headstands. I was like, Mom, I want to do that, and then I started.
That was age 3. Now, at age 15, the energetic and young athlete is one of the decorated up-and-coming talents in U.S. gymnastics. And it all started in Montana, where Reese would train at Gym 406 in Helena before her and her mother moved to Missoula in 2020. It was a challenging dynamic with the rest of the family staying in Helena, but the family saw Reese's potential, so they did everything to make it work.
People kind of looked at us and said, what are you doing? It was just a sport we couldn't take away from her. She works harder than anybody I know, and day in and day out puts in the hours. The frustration level sometimes gets high, but she always does it with a smile on her face and a great drive.
In 2022, she began to break through by competing at the Hopes Championships. Then in 2023, it ramped up even more with appearances at the Winter Cup, the American Classic, the Core Hydration Classic, and the Xfinity U.S. Gymnastics Championships. She also made the U.S. Junior National Team late in 2023, and earlier this year competed in Azerbaijan, meaning in international competition, she made the brief jump to the Senior National Team.
Just like getting to experience it all. Like, not a lot of people get experience what I've got to experience from their sport. I can keep improving, I can keep getting better. And my coach has always told me, like, you can be good if you keep working hard.
Esponda has been climbing ever since, and earlier this year, Reese and Lindsay relocated to Texas as Reese joined the elite World Champions Center near Houston, where she trains every day alongside one of the greatest athletes of all time in Simone Biles, along with star and Olympic medalist Jordan Chiles. The sky's the limit for Esponda as she aims to accomplish her goals to show a gymnast from Montana can make it on the grandest of stages. Reporting in Missoula, Kyle Hansen, MTN Sports.
Something for sports fans to look forward to. Helena native Sean O'Malley returns to the Octagon in 2 weeks' time to headline UFC 306 at the Sphere in Las Vegas and defend his title against #1 bantamweight contender Merab Dvalishvili. And MTN Sports will be along for the ride. Now, the rise of Sugar Sean would not have been possible without sponsors who funded his training before he made it big. We caught up with some of his very first backers and promoters who tell us what they initially saw in the young skinny kid from Helena.
So me and a buddy drove to Missoula, and Sean's spinning back fist knocked this kid out in like 10 seconds. And I knew from that moment that as 221 was brand new, we were looking for that person to put us on the map, and I was like, that's that kid.
Corey Smith hit me up and said, hey man, there's this kid down in Helena, he looks really good, do you want to go watch? And I'm like, sure, yeah, let's go do it. So we went down, watched one of his fights, and I'd coached athletics for quite a long time, and when you know a good athlete, you can just kind of see it and tell. So I was like, yeah, Corey, I'm in. Let's start sponsoring the kid. Let's see what he can do.
He came in, we visited a little bit, and, he was barely scraping by down there. He was kind of the rugrat in the gym. And we visited a little bit, and we talked about some sponsorship stuff, and, I'm a big fan. One thing led to another, and we gave him his first sponsorship, so.
We'll stay locked into MontanaSports.com. We'll have much more coverage of O'Malley leading up to UFC 306 in Las Vegas on September 14th. That's our time for Sports Extra on a Saturday night. But as always, the conversation continues online at MontanaSports.com, your home for all things athletic in the Treasure State. Thanks for joining us. Have a great night. We'll see you next week.